It would be important to speak to you on a few issues affecting the university. As you know, with your social media, there's a lot of distortion out there. And when you don't give people the correct information, people create their own and keep and fill in the gaps. So first of all, I want to greet you and welcome you to Kyambogo University and to thank God for keeping us safe this far and for seeing us through the 42 days of the lockdown, which was a bit challenging, especially for people who are not who are not used to staying at home for long periods and who had to be in contact with their colleagues for a long time. But we thank God that we finished the 42 days and we are now in a phase which is fairly relaxed compared to the 42 days. During that time and before that, the university lost a number of people, a number of staff members, and a number of students, either to COVID or to other causes. So I send my condolences on my own behalf and behalf of the university to those people who lost their loved ones and pray to God to comfort them. And also many people got affected and recovered from the disease. And also thank God for healing them. We thank the leadership of the country, the president and the government for guiding us through this fight of this pandemic. And we can now see that the efforts of the government have reduced the number of cases in hospitals and also the number of people who are dying from the pandemic. So those efforts have yielded fruits, and we await further vaccination of many more people in the country so that life can return to normal. We are aware of the problems of the procurements of vaccines, but we thank the efforts of government which will ensure that our people get vaccinated. Now, working after the lockdown, colleagues, you remember that during the lockdown, we're allowed to work at 10% in all government departments. So we tried to get movement permits from the Ministry of Works. But the Ministry of Works was fairly tight with their permits, and they only gave this university about 25 permits. So we tried to do the best we can with the people who are allowed to travel. But the good thing is that we continued working through online engagements. Now, after the lockdown, we've been allowed to work at about 20%, and with the permission for public transport to move, the number of people are able to come and work. So many more people can access the university so that we can continue doing some work. So we have encouraged departments, both academic and administrative departments, to come up with schedules that allow staff to come in rotation, and a number of other people are working from home. Through this period, still, many committees of the university, they will continue to meet online. We have had a number of top management meetings. Senate continues to meet. Council and its committees have continued to meet online because we are not yet very secure to be able to meet as we used to do. This is in recognition of the fact that there is still a threat of a third wave. I think there's a projection that after the lockdown, the numbers will first go up because of the immense excitement associated with freeing the people to move. I think you can see this in downtown. The number of people has gone up. and many people have now started engaging in a number of other activities which bring them in close proximity to their colleagues. So we'll continue to do most of our engagements online. We also try to follow the general guidelines that teaching and learning continue online until such a time when many students and staff are vaccinated and it is safe to fully reopen educational institutions. So we don't know when this will happen, but we shall continue to wait on government to advise us. We are aware of the challenges faced by staff and students associated with online teaching and learning. And these challenges include, for example, the cost of data. Data is still expensive in this country. Then lack of access wherever students stay. There may be no power to charge the gadgets if they have them. And then lack of these gadgets, lack of smartphones, lack of laptops or computers, and then lack of iPads, which they use for online access. With the effects of the pandemic not abating, I encourage parents and their guardians, the students and their guardians, to be innovative and switch to new normal. It may be interpreted as being not appreciative of the circumstances under which people are operating, for us to suggest that parents and guardians should invest in the education of their children. For example, by buying them laptops, by buying them smartphones, by buying them iPads, so that students can access materials for them to continue being engaged. It is very unfortunate for students to sit at home, be idle for months and months. And when the institutions open, then they may find going back to the routine of attending lectures and doing homework, it may be a bit cumbersome. So we encourage those parents who can afford to do that to buy their students these items so that teaching and learning can continue. This is happening in most universities now. Notably, I think the one that has done it well in Uganda is UCU, where every student must come with a laptop. For you to be allowed into the university, you must have a laptop as one of the materials required for you to access learning. So we may need to engage further discussion in this and see how students can be helped to continue learning. On part of the university, we are going to procure Zoom licenses, which allow many students access at the same time. This is mainly important for those classes which are fairly large, 500 and above. And I think as we go along, we must also consider the class sizes and see how we manage these class sizes in view of the new normal. One of the reasons I called for this press conference, there's been a lot of information circulating on social media that Kyambogo University is going to have online examinations. This information has circulated very widely. You know, information on social media spreads like wildfire. And many people have been calling us to clarify on whether we are going to have online examinations. I want to say that this is fake. I don't know why people initiated this and circulated it, but Senate has not discussed any issue of online examinations in this university. So please consider that as fake news and let nobody pay attention to it. It's important that we come up with a statement to say this is fake. The university has not considered the possibility of having online examinations. We're all aware of the challenges associated with online examinations. And that's why the National Council for Higher Education has been very cautious about allowing universities to do online examinations. Another important issue I want to talk about is the graduation of Kyambogo University. We are planning to have the 17th Kyambogo University graduation running from the 21st to the 23rd of September 2021. It will run from the 21st to the 23rd of September 2021. This time, this graduation will be virtual with limited physical presence. Senate is discussing how this will be done, but we expect that the officers of the university will be here, the Chancellor will be here, the procession will be here, and we may also invite graduate students, those who are graduating with postgraduate diplomas, masters, and PhDs. They may also be here. But the rest of the students will be attending online, virtually, through a number of platforms. And this is the first graduation that Kyambogo is going to hold virtually. So we have a lot of learning to do, especially from those other institutions that have done this. So Senate is meeting frequently to make sure that we have a successful graduation. And as usual, and as the law provides, the Chancellor will be the one to award the certificates and diplomas on that occasion. But we shall invite the visitor as our chief guest, and we are yet to send invitation letters to the invited guests. And the students have waited for this for a long time. We have been continually receiving calls, when are we graduating, when are we graduating? Now I'm glad that Senate has finally come up with a decision that will go ahead and graduate. The delay was occasioned by a number of factors, including closure of the institutions and then failure to conduct these teaching practices and internship. So the delay was occasioned by those factors, but I'm glad that finally we're going to have a graduation ceremony for our students. Also to inform you that the university now has a new structure. The University Council approved a new structure for the university in October 2020, and it was subsequently approved by the Ministry of Public Service in November 2020. So we now have a new structure, a new rearrangement of faculties and academic departments and administrative units, which was occasioned by the fact that the university has grown from the time the last structure was approved, which was around 2006. A lot of things have happened, and there was a need for a new structure. So the number of faculties have increased, and the number of departments have also increased. And we also had a graduate school, which was operating really not so well. It's now going to be a directorate of research and graduate training. And then we also have an Institute of Open Distance E-Learning and Learning Centers. We have created a number of learning centers, 2 so far, one in the eastern part of this country in Soroti, and another one in Ushenyi. And Council is urging us to consider establishing another center in northern Uganda. But we have a lot of learning to do from the current centers that we have, what we need to have a successful center before we move to northern Uganda. But that will be happening, I hope not so far away from now. So in order to have staff allocated to their academic departments, the university has already finished a validation exercise where all members of staff, about 413, were asked one-on-one where they would want to be allocated. Let me correct this one. Initially, management allocated them to certain units depending on their qualifications and training. And as the law demands, they must consent to this. So we approached each one of them and they consented to the areas they were allocated. And some also had ideas that they could be allowed to serve in other areas, and their concerns are going to be taken into consideration. So I must thank all members of staff for participating in this exercise, which was very successful and done online as well. So we are increasing our capacity to do most of our activities online, and that's the new normal, and that's the way the university will continue running. Lastly, 2 things. I want to congratulate all our members of staff whose children performed well in UPE and UCE. You know, you people in the media have made it such a big thing that when somebody performs well in UPE, UCE, then they must take over the media for a number of weeks before they settle down. But we congratulate them, those parents who had children sitting UPE and UCE, and wait the advanced level certificate exams. As a country also, we must thank our Olympiads, those who performed well at the Olympics. I think Uganda now features prominently in many people's minds. So we must congratulate our Olympiads, Madam Chemutai, Mr. Kiptegei, and Kiplimo, for making Uganda very proud. For the first time, you heard Wazungu talking very well about Uganda. That's the country which is the best, with very good weather, with very good people. I've never heard a Mzungu talk well about an African country like that. So I was very impressed that they are starting to change their minds about Uganda. So lastly, I must thank the government of Uganda for continuously guiding the country on how to proceed in this dangerous situation. So we as a country must keep watch. Let's not go to sleep. And let us listen to science and obey the SOPs. We are disturbed when we hear people saying, me, I will not be vaccinated. You'll vaccinate me on my deathbed. There are people who do not want to be vaccinated at all, for reasons unknown to many people, and maybe others listen to their pastors. When their pastors tell them this thing is, it's demonic, it will go. But this virus will not go without a fight, and everybody must be involved. So, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Any questions? I know you normally have very many for me. Yes?
Second is about, you said the graduation is actually will be done next month. Can you tell us about the numbers of students who will be graduating?
One, I think the ICT department is working with the bursars department. Very difficult to expect students to come here and clear from office to office. So we think that this will be done online as well, and students will be informed very soon how they are going to do this. The number of students, we are still compiling the lists of graduating students because we have more than 1 month. We have 1.5 months actually to graduation. And Senate is meeting, I think this week also, and very soon we shall know the numbers of students who may be graduating. But going by the previous graduations, our numbers are around the range of 7,500 to 8,000. So we don't know what the numbers are for sure now, but this is being worked out now. Well, online is going to continue. I said we are aware of the challenges of online teaching. If it's not online teaching, then it's no teaching at all. We are also aware that not all students can access online teaching. But in some small classes where there are 40 students, 50 students, 100, those ones have been accessing online teaching very well. And I'm encouraged to learn that in some departments, they have completed their coursework because of the access to online teaching. But we still have a problem with the large classes where you have students over 1,000 in a class. That teaching has not been very effective because not all of them have been accessing their lecturers. We have tried to impress upon the members of staff to use Odero and use all other means to access these students. I'm glad to say that some of these teachers have created WhatsApp groups for their students, and they continue engaging their students. And some of them have been sending materials through email, and students access the materials and work on them and send them back. So there is a lot of innovation in this. We are aware of the challenges. The country as a whole is not covered with internet. In some places, there is no power. In some instances, students say they are from poor homes, so they don't access these materials. So we'll continue improving step by step. But as I said, I want to encourage parents and their guardians to invest in the education of their children by buying them some of these gadgets so that students can continue learning. But though this is happening in some primary schools, private schools, students are continuing to learn online. And as I've told you, UCU, I think, is exceptional because for you to be able to go to UCU, you must be a rich person or a child of a rich person because their fees is very high and they require that you must have a computer, a laptop, as one of your materials for learning. So I'll talk about faculties. And the rearrangement was to be able to respond to the new trends of the country. A lot of changes have happened. For example, the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences was split into 2 faculties, one of Faculty of Arts and Humanities and another of Social Sciences. And we had a Department of Agriculture, and this has been upgraded to a Faculty of Agriculture because we need to emphasize the role of agriculture in our development. And then a number of schools. You have School of Education, you have a School of Art and Industrial Design, which was, Art and Industrial Design was initially a department. You have the Department of Architecture, which has been upgraded to a School of Built Environment. And then you have a new School of Computing and Information Science and a new School of Vocational Studies. And then we created a new institute the Institute for Distance Education, e-learning, and learning centers, to be able to inform the university about ODEL, Open Distance Education and e-learning, and then take care of our learning centers, which we have created, as I said, in eastern Uganda and another one in western Uganda. And these are still babies. They need to be nurtured to be able to stand alone as learning centers. Yes, please. So I think we'll continue charging the same fees until council advises otherwise. But there is this feeling that online teaching is cheaper. No. I think the debate has been on. You pay for the knowledge that you acquire, not how the knowledge is delivered to you. So I think we'll continue charging the same fees until council advises otherwise. And by the way, online teaching appears to be fairly more expensive than physical teaching because of the internet facilities, the gadgets that you need, and all these things that go into preparing materials and getting them to the students. So we shall continue charging the same fees until council advises otherwise.
And then talking about the graduation, I think one of the issues you said that delayed it was maybe like
teaching practice was, we were able to do teaching practice when the schools were reopened. You know, at some stage, schools opened to allow continuing to allow finalists to continue and finish. So we took advantage of that, and the School of Education was able to organize school practice and college practice. Students were able to go and do this in class. Initially, we thought we could do this as peer teaching. You know peer teaching? When a group of students sit together and one of them teaches them as doing the practice of how they teach. But we were informed by the Ministry of Education that that is not college practice or school practice. That school practice must take place in a school setting. And school practice is not about teaching this small group of students, but the teacher must participate in other activities in the school so that when he or she graduates, then they are sure that he had participated in all the activities of the school. So peer teaching was not encouraged, and we obeyed and waited for the schools to reopen, and then our students were able to do school practice.
Okay, then my two last questions. One pertains to when you said that the new structure was approved, did it create a gap in terms of the staff, and therefore maybe some jobs will be advertised?
We did this restructuring with the help of the Ministry of Public Service. So and they have been involved in this exercise to restructure higher education institutions, the universities in particular. So what we came up with was not a major increase in the number of staff, but rearrangement within the faculties. The increase will be there, but not major, and it has been taken care of in the wage bill. However, we realize that we may need to recruit some staff in those departments where there is very few members of staff to do the teaching. One of the areas we are finding difficult to recruit people is in the field of architecture. We are told architects make a lot of money out there in the field, and they don't want to come and spend time teaching. But we are going to discuss with the appointments board and see how best we can recruit some young people to be able to teach in some of these needy departments. So the restructuring and the validation has informed us about the staffing gaps in a number of units, so which we are going to attend to using the current wage bill which we have. Now, for students who fail to attend online classes, I think Senate is going to discuss this matter. And what we are going to propose to Senate is that when the universities reopen, we spend some time for face-to-face interaction. And this should focus more on those people who did not access online teaching. Like if you have 6 weeks of face-to-face before you conduct exams, that should be able to tide up all these students who had questions, who had issues with internet access. So that's what we're going to discuss in the Senate, and a decision will be taken to make sure that we don't leave many people behind. So if there are no more questions, thank you very much.